Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibis, welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. If you're on YouTube, you can see a cat right behind me, and he is about to knock stuff down. So let's see how this goes. Maybe he'll be quiet while I'm trying to get my work done. Hope you guys are having a good evening. Not sure if this is coming out on Friday or Saturday. So whatever day this finds you, hope you're well. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to keep chugging along in the Michael Turney trial. Totally encourage you guys to go check out Sarah Turney's podcast on this case. A lot of her earlier episodes deal just about this case. In later years, she started focusing on other cold cases. She's a really great podcast. I've been enjoying it, learning a lot of backstory, which I think is essential to understanding everything about this trial. Unfortunately, the jury is not going to hear a lot of things that really drive the motive home to me of allegedly him killing Alissa. But anyways, if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe, give the video a like, hit that little bell button. It's a really easy way to support the podcast. Reminder, you can fast forward my ads anywhere, whether you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening through audio, but that's how I keep things free for y'all. So I appreciate you guys listening to those. I try out everything that I get, and I absolutely love Kosas right now. That's my jam. I've been wearing that makeup. I've switched over completely, y'all. Not even kidding. Good stuff if you like to wear makeup. All right, we're jumping in. Next witness, John Lockman, who was Alissa's boyfriend at the time she disappeared. They met their junior year in high school. They had a class together and a group project with other students, and that's kind of when they started to get close. While they were at someone's house working on the group project, another group member was kicked out of that house and was told to walk home. He went to give them a ride, and Alissa just kind of fell in love with that side of him, somebody who would just go make sure that person got home safely. Away from school, they would drive around, they would go window shop, go out to eat, and they would go talk in a couple of places that had nice scenery. When Alissa went missing, they were still dating, and he actually, when he was asked that question, he said absolutely, because we know right before she disappeared, they had that fight that Michael instigated where he told John that Alissa was cheating on him. We heard the screeching tires, see her throw her phone. And so according to John, they were very much still together. He met Michael and visited the house a lot over the course of 9 months. They went paintballing in a remote area in the desert with Michael, Sarah. Sometimes Alissa's brothers would go. They took Sarah and one of her brothers bowling one night. The two of them went to prom together just a couple of weeks before she went missing. The prosecution points out the necklace in a photo that Alissa is wearing, and he said he gave it to her for her birthday. That is a necklace she left behind. Again, Sarah said she would not have left that necklace behind. She wore it all the time. He doesn't remember seeing her without it after he gave it to her. They show a photo of Alissa, Sarah, James, and John, which are two of the brothers. The day of Alissa's disappearance, he had a voicemail from Michael saying that Alissa was missing and asked if she was with him. He went to their house a few days later. He and Michael were trying to figure out what happened or where she might be. Michael showed him the letter that Alissa had left on her dresser. The witness questioned something about cameras, and Michael took him into his bedroom and showed all the monitors. Alissa had previously told him about this setup that he had. Michael never told him phone calls were being recorded, and they really didn't use cell phones to talk. Again, this is back in 2001. Not everybody had a cell phone back then. They usually talked on those landlines. He did not know there was a camera in the vent, and he later learned that from investigators. Alissa never said anything to him about running away or wanting to or planning to. He's asked about that argument with Alissa at the house where you hear him peel off and she throws her phone. He again confirms they were still dating even after that argument. Michael had told John that he saw her with another guy, so John admitted he was very jealous. The day she disappeared, she came into his class and said that Michael was picking her up from school. She didn't say where they were going, and that was the last time that he ever saw her. So on cross, he asks if he was jealous over Alissa, and you guys had a few arguments over your jealousy, and he says yes. They talk about Alyssa's job at Jack in the Box. So around the time of prom, they had been dating for about 6 months or so. He's asked if she would cash her checks and keep the money in her purse. He says he does not remember that. He had a voicemail on his cell phone from Michael saying that Alissa had run away or something. He doesn't remember the context, but he called back immediately. He went to the house at some point, took the necklace back that he gave her. It was on a nightstand next to her bed. He didn't tell anybody that he took that necklace back. John called the aunt in California several times, but never got a reply from her. He saw the note that was left, and he told investigators it did look like her handwriting and it sounded like something she would write. He was asked on direct if she had talked about running away. Remember, he said no, but she told you on other occasions she didn't want to live with her dad. And he said, yes, she did say that. The argument when you confronted her about cheating, was it before or after prom? And he said that was before. She didn't admit to him she was cheating, and he didn't think that she was cheating. He said he never grabbed her violently, and he said he wasn't aware of having the other coworker at the house and them making out. So on redirect, a lot of I don't remembers about banks and backpacks and all this stuff. When asked why he took the necklace, he said it was his memory of her that he reclaimed. So we get into Detective Summershoe, one of the two lead investigators when this case got some new life back in 2008, 2009. He said missing persons are common. Almost every shift, they would get a report of a missing person. He said they would get around 7,000 missing juvenile reports per year. That is very scary. He goes through all the missing persons reports, any unusual circumstances. He looks for descriptions of the juvenile, that kind of thing. Once the report is taken, it goes into a National Crime Information Center database that all of law enforcement uses. Her date of birth was initially listed incorrectly, but it was fixed before it went onto that national database. If someone is missing and were to get in trouble with the police, they would get a notification that that person had been reported missing if they pull their name up. Notifications are kind of sent down the line. It also flags similar names when a name is entered. He's asked, what do you do for missing juveniles? And he said they research the person to try to understand why they went missing. They do background checks to see if they've been involved in police incidents. They also search social media more in modern times. Back then, I think we maybe had AOL and MySpace, and people really didn't post everything we do. If you think about MySpace, it wasn't like we posted pictures of our food or what we were doing at every moment. It was a little bit less easy to kind of just go down the line and read all that stuff, for me at least. But MySpace was kind of the bomb when it hit, because it was like we had AOL, and then it was always, such a bummer when somebody picked up the phone and then you dropped your internet connection. Oh, how times have changed. Look at us now. He said they try to establish a life pattern to see if they've left before. Are they a risk at self-harm? Things like that. When asked if these things were done in 2001, he said the investigators assigned to the case didn't document very much about this case. He said that he would have handled this very differently had he been in charge back then. At the home, they would look for diaries, journals, cell phones to see if there's any kind of leads in there. He said Detective Anderson and himself were assigned to this case in 2008. They reviewed the case file, which had letters from Michael in it over the years. It had flyers from the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. There was a letter from Michael thanking two detectives. And part of that read, I would like to bring your attention that these officers went beyond the scope of their duties to provide me with the human needs I had as a parent while trying to deal with a 17-year-old runaway daughter with ADD. Sergeant White took the time away from his very busy schedule to assist me in understanding the role the police have, giving me perspective from a partner and providing me comfort as a worried parent for the safety of the mentally impaired child who has consistently shown poor judgment in her decision-making as it pertains to people, comprehension, or the repercussions of her actions in almost all other areas my 5 other children dealt with rather well. Again, you see, he is minimizing her as a person. He is insulting her intelligence, where nobody but Michael ever said anything about her having ADD or being mentally impaired. And that is not accurate from everything I've learned about Alissa. He's gaslighting. He's very mentally impaired. Look what they found in his home at the search warrant back in 2007, 2008. A stockpile. He was going to blow up the union, a manifesto. Come on now. It goes on to say the clearinghouse process in Arizona under Gail McBride with DPS does not allow police subpoena powers for phone records to parents of an identified ADD, and then it cuts off. When they reviewed the case file, they saw there was no trace of Alissa since the day she went missing. They heard about the call and the letter and his attempts to get help finding out where the call came from. A copy of the letter was in the case file. They got the original in December of 2008. They did a thorough review trying to find Alissa. They looked at many things like bank records for any sign of life, and nothing was found. Her social security number was never used again at any point since the day she went missing for a job or anything of that nature. Michael said he didn't want contact and said he had made Sarah the contact in the family. We went over that in the last episode. They met with her. He did meet Michael in person in September of 2008. They went to his house to look at Alissa's possessions. The meeting was arranged through Sarah, Alissa's younger sister. They were invited just into the entryway, and there was a plastic tote, and they were told this was what was left of her possessions. They expected a lot more. Sarah thought there was a lot more. It had her yearbooks, a few other little things, but nothing that was relevant. They were given surveillance videos and were told about the argument with her boyfriend, and Michael showed them the video of Alissa making out on the couch with her then coworker, who we just had testify. Of course, they were told there was no video from the day Alissa left, and Michael said he didn't have it anymore. That day, they were at the house at most 15 to 20 minutes. They went back to the neighborhood to canvass to see if anyone was a witness, saw or heard anything the day Alissa went missing. They stopped by the Turney house to let them know that they had been in the area. Michael met them at the door, and he said he wanted resolution in this by November or he would take legal action. They canvassed 2 neighborhoods, including the previous residence Alissa lived in. They're outside the presence of the jury. There's 2 video clips and 1 audio clip that is being discussed. The state says the 2 videos are from the primetime broadcast that he played in his openings. This is specifically when Michael is asked if he molested Alissa. He says because of the contract and the nature of his relationship and his concern of being accused of molesting Alissa is relevant. Michael says they're just rumors and innuendo. The defendant referred to the accusations himself, is the argument the state's making as to why these should be able to come in. The interview was conducted when he was awaiting trial on the federal charges, and you see that he is in a jail uniform. So they're asking to just bring in the audio, not to prejudice the jury. In the interview, when he's asked if he would be willing to talk to detectives, he says, "I'll talk to them." In response to that, a call was placed to Michael by investigators asking him to talk about Alissa. He declined. He was in custody at the time the call was made. The defense says the problem they have in admitting this is that it's a backdoor way for the state to show Michael's silence. He invoked his right to remain silent when the police reached out to him while he was in custody. Now, here's the thing that I question. Why would you not? You say you spent $50,000 trying to find her. You say you went to California several times. You were consumed, according to several of your kids, in finding Alissa, and yet now you won't talk to investigators? Like, that's, I don't know, for you guys, that's a big red flag for me. I'd be willing to talk to anybody, especially because he seemed frustrated the police weren't doing their jobs. And now when they've got 2 investigators dedicated to Alissa's case, he doesn't want to talk. The defense attorney explains Miranda rights and says it can't be used against you if you don't talk. She said the state is trying to backdoor this in and allege Michael wasn't cooperating. And now it's time to hear a word from our sponsors of the week, EasyCanvasPrints.com and Kosas. If you're looking for the perfect heartfelt gift for a loved one, Easy Canvas Prints is the way to go. Canvas prints can be customized, and they're a unique and meaningful way to show someone that you care. Maybe you want a quality canvas print for the perfect family photo or that amazing vacation picture you took. Canvas prints are not only visually stunning, the quality is top-notch with hand-stretched canvases over durable wooden frames. Their state-of-the-art printing technology ensures vibrant colors, sharp details, and long-lasting quality. The coolest part, The canvases come ready to hang on your wall. I have my logo printed. The colors are stunning, and it's here hanging in my studio right now. Ordering your custom canvas print is a breeze. All you do is visit easycanvasprints.com and upload your favorite photo. You can customize the size, borders, and even add a custom wooden or metallic frame to create a unique piece of art. Don't wait to elevate your home or office decor with a custom canvas print. Visit easycanvasprints.com/prettylies for a special offer for my listeners. Get unlimited 16 by 20 canvas prints for only $14.99 each. Again, that's easycanvasprints.com/prettylies. I've been using Kosas for over a month now, and I love how their makeup gives me a natural look without caked up under eye concealer or foundation that looks painted on. Kosas makes clean makeup for skincare freaks. Their complexion products are actually proven to make your skin better. They're dermatologist tested, safe for sensitive and acne prone skin, and hypoallergenic. Kosas Revealer Concealer is not your mom's concealer. It's really creamy, weightless, and it's a total multitasker. It's a concealer, eye cream, and spot treatment in one. Revealer Concealer is packed with active skincare ingredients. It offers creaseless medium coverage with a smooth, radiant finish that looks just like your skin, just brighter, more even, and healthier. Take the 5-step shade finder quiz to find your perfect match. So don't choose between wearing great makeup and taking care of your skin. Right now, Kosas is offering my listeners 15% off your first purchase of $50 or more when you go to kosas.com/whattheworld. Go to Kosas, KOSAS.com/whattheworld for 15% off your first purchase of $50 or more, plus free shipping. That's kosas.com/whattheworld. A previous judge ruled the state could only talk about pre-Miranda statements or cooperation with the police. In 2008, when he was arrested, he exercised his rights and asked for an attorney. The other clip is where Michael is asked about the molestation based on rumors. The defense says they were hearsay, and that's 404B evidence. This is a back way to get this in. Also, in that interview, the host asks about rumors you molested Alissa. That's not from Michael's mouth. He's speaking about the rumors that were eliminated out in this case. Now, I found a portion of this video online. The host says they look at people the closest to the missing, and Michael says that's standard 101 investigation. The host says, why take it as an insult? Michael said, I didn't take it as an insult. I took it as fighting for someone for 6 to 7 years to get them, meaning the investigators or police, to do what I wanted them to do. The host says, as former law enforcement, refusing to answer their questions, don't you see how that would raise eyebrows? He says, no, because that's a lie. I didn't refuse to answer questions. They're calling me daily, asking me questions. The host said they wanted to sit down with you. And Michael said, and they would have gotten that. All they had to do was set the time and the place, and it would have happened. So the host says, let's clear some of the things they're saying about you. At the beginning, when Alissa disappeared, detectives were focused on someone else, thinking he had done it. But as they interviewed her friends, some disturbing things started to surface. The feeling that you were obsessed with her. Very controlling, very strict, that you had her sign contracts and you followed her around. Now, Michael kind of gives a little smirk when he says this. You interviewed parents of any new friends she had. He asks if Michael went far beyond what any normal parent would do. Michael says it depends on who you talk to. If it avoided anything happening to her and because she ran away as a result of that, yeah, of course, I feel bad. The host said, people said that you were demeaning to Alissa. You made her feel stupid. Michael said, that's an absolute lie. I wouldn't allow that with Alissa because I wanted her to have a good self-esteem of herself. The host said in a phone call that has surfaced since then, you called Alissa the B word. Michael kind of looks shocked and he says, really? See, I'm not aware of that. Fine. Let's bring all the recordings out. I got no problem with that. I very well could have called her that when I was mad. The host said, that's demeaning. And Michael says, I guess it is. The host says, what were you planning to do? Michael says, kill myself. That's what I tried to do in 94. He's asked, what about the firecrackers and the bombs and the explosives? Michael says, what bombs? A few little flash things that would make noise. You can't kill anybody with a pipe bomb unless you stick it down their throat. Didn't Phoenix police say this was like the largest stockpile of explosives in history? for their department. The host said, the police said you were going to blow up the Union Hall. Michael said, sure they did, because they don't understand you can't take that building down with a bomb. He's asked, you weren't going to do that? Michael said, not in the least bit. Why? I'm going to murder a bunch of innocent people? That sounds insane. He's asked, you say the Union is out to get you. The Phoenix police are out to get you. It sounds like you think the world is out to get you, and it sounds a little delusional. Michael says that's what they investigated. I just went and talked to the government's forensic psychologist. She said I had a paranoid personality, but she didn't say delusional. The host said, do you think you have a paranoid personality? And Michael says, have you ever worn a badge and a gun? Ever been in the military? The host says no. Michael says, I guarantee you'd have a paranoid personality after that. The host said, why should we believe you? Michael says, because when people tell things that seem to be so irrational, they tend to not be true. I didn't kill my stepdaughter. I'm not capable of killing my stepdaughter. There's another news clip announcing his arrest, showing that police found the videos from the vent with Alissa on the couch with a boy. And this is in that interview, by the way. They actually show a video of this. You see that. In the trial, you don't. I will put a link in the description of where you can see this interview. His body language is interesting. He seems very smug and kind of as if he's better than the interviewer. In an older phone call, he says, should probably have her spayed. How's that for a disgusting thought? I'm sorry, that's really gross to say about your own daughter. The news clip says friends told investigators about Michael handcuffing Alissa being woken up with him being on top of her and holding her down. So the judge won't allow the audio clip of Michael declining to talk to investigators. The clips about not providing the tapes is admissible. The clip with him denying molestation, he said he's ruled Michael denying molesting Alissa is admissible. The only reason molestation is in the case because it's part of the contract he created. Boom. So the witness is back on the stand. He said they interviewed a lot of family members, coworkers, classmates, friends. They talked to Alissa's Aunt Lynette since she lived in California, and they were aware of communication between her and Alissa before Alissa disappeared. He talks about searching the home Alissa last lived in. They found nothing. Of course, I mean, new families had been there prior to that. 2 families, 3 families or so had lived there since Alissa had disappeared. The search of the house across the street in 2008, they had cadaver dogs at both places. They found many documents. Approximately 500 cassette tapes and VHS tapes were found. They were listened to and all the videos were watched. Not all were surveillance. Some of those cut into family home videos, just TV programming and things like that. The cassette tapes, it was a typical tape recorded the conversations coming in and out of the house. It could be checking movie times, family conversations, telemarketers, everyone in the house having conversations with people. It was like a wiretap over decades. The oldest was in the 70s, but the one call that's missing, that alleged call from California in May of 2001, supposedly from Alissa. Phone records did show on May 24th of 2001, a call from California came in. Michael obtained those records. We talked previously about how he sued the phone company. They were given a record of that. It came in at 5:02 a.m. They enter in the video of the argument between Alissa and John, her boyfriend. You see Alissa throw her phone against the wall and walk out of the door. It switches to inside the house with Alissa on the couch. Clearly, she's crying. She's covering her face with her hands. You hear the screeching of the tires, and you can hear her crying off camera inside the house. She goes back out to the garage, puts her phone back together, and she's wiping her nose as she goes back in the house. They did find a second copy of this video during their search warrant. On the copy, the date was May 16th, and he doesn't think there was a date on the one provided to them. They got school records from Alissa's from 1998 through 2000. Now get this. She had mostly B's and C's. She only had 2 D's out of the 24 classes over a 2-year period. Where's this big learning disability, ADD problem, or whatever phrase he used previously just said, describing her as being incapable, essentially? Investigator found records from the school's credit union with bank receipts. That's where Alissa kept her savings. My high school did not have a credit union, just saying. She had over $1,800, and the account was emptied and transferred initially into Sarah's account. They show Michael's account with a transfer on April 26, 2001 for $300 into Alyssa's account. Michael told investigators he was leaving the account open to see if Alissa would access it, but after a few months, he transferred it out. He told them he did not want to give Alissa a chance to access the money if she was out there somewhere, which is interesting because if she's out there somewhere and you care so much and you've been out for days and weeks and months and spent thousands of dollars trying to find her, if she is out there and you truly care, wouldn't you want her to have access to money instead of her being in a situation where she has no money, no food, no roof over her head? Very contradictory to me. They show a letter from Michael to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And I'm going to go through this. It's kind of interesting. He thanks them for their assistance in sending forms to him. He said he and Alissa had an amicable and adversarial relationship in part due to her condition and by continuous outside intervention by private citizens and governmental agencies. She is a true ADD. Meds didn't help. Almost all of her conflicts at school were promoted by the schools. They promoted programs to use progressive discipline and or retaliation versus identifying and testing students and placing students like her in IEPs. The other problems resulted in school officials and ex-friends of mine deciding that she needed to experience sexual contact with male students, alcohol, and marijuana usage. All was reported to the appropriate authority. All was ignored. Alissa was solicited by a male teacher in a public school during a class to wrestle a male student without any regard for her safety or protection of those female parts of her body that were made sore by the young man groping her private parts under the authorization of a male teacher. She was humiliated, shamed, and disgraced because she had no idea what to expect. Her ability to foresee what to expect was hindered as an ADD child. I spent numerous hours with her crying and dealing with her embarrassment and shame to overcome this tragedy. Within days, Alissa put this behind her, as she always did with her quickness to forget. Then she was accused of being gay and moved away from her friends by 4 teachers who decided to share this information with other students on campus, causing me to change schools. This incident caused further harm, but was not so easily forgotten due to the accusation being spread on campus. She was also issued detention slips for failing to run a mile in the time they demanded, even though the school was notified she had asthma. This was followed by a detention slip because she failed to pick up a slip of paper to use the restroom after she had been humiliated with the accusations of being gay. All this was done during a federal Department of Education investigation of a school failing to comply with the IDEA, that's Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, that protects kids that have disabilities and gives them rights within schools. After they stopped retaliating against Alissa, another school in the same district decided to only pat search one child out of 24 in a classroom looking for missing change, candy, and a paper hole puncher. This was her sister, Sarah. To this day, including during this past school year, some teachers continue to try and punish Alissa for not paying attention or following instructions. In spite of those same teachers attending the forced IEP meetings I demanded because they decided she did not have ADD or a learning disability. I'm going to tell you right now, teachers know when students have a genuine disability or potentially have a disability. This is their job. This is like a doctor who looks at you when you come in the ER and watches you and studies you and says, yeah, something's really wrong here. Teachers can spot these kids a mile away for the most part. And when you've got teachers being forced to go to an IEP meeting, as he just said, because they didn't think she needed an IEP, her grades didn't reflect she needed an IEP. And here's the thing, the teachers are the ones with her in the classroom every day. Michael is not. So you see that big difference there. These teachers don't have a dog in the fight. Michael does. So you see, he was always trying to make it seem like she had some sort of a disability emotionally, in a learning capacity, and just minimizing her as a person, as an intellectual. It's so bizarre. Alissa's attitude remained positive at school, but very adversarial at home, based in part for all of the above, but in part because she had so much trouble passing her tests. She had trouble passing her Ames test and had to be tutored daily by me for her to do her homework. I tutored Alissa every night, where she displayed excellent study habits with some of the best note-taking I've seen in any of my 6 children. The primary problem remained the same. She couldn't comprehend and or retain most of the material she took notes about in order to use it for testing. That year, she took a job at Jack in the Box, where she was praised by those she worked with because she was very hardworking and wanted to be accepted and please those around her. She also took on a steady boyfriend. The combination of school, the job's late hours, and dad's rules were taking a toll on her world, which had become far too complicated, using her exact words. The boyfriend was too demanding and critical of her mental condition by ridiculing her for it. This caused a conflict of my teachings that she was not stupid or inferior and intelligent to anyone. Nobody but Michael is saying that this boyfriend ever said anything about a mental condition. He didn't testify to it. Her boyfriend would encourage her to break basic rules I had established for Alissa, which included skipping classes to be with him, leaving campus without permission, a positive attitude about school, allowing male friends in the home when I wasn't there, and my recommendation to end this relationship due to his bad temper and ridiculing her for her learning disability. Because she had a class with him and didn't want to anger or embarrass him at school, she was planning to break it off, according to several of her female friends and me. Alissa required a lot of sleep before her job and boyfriend. Alissa would normally go to bed between 8 and 9 p.m. every night. This was disrupted by her job and the demands of the boyfriend. Alissa developed a like for marijuana after the woman she babysat for. So we had an ongoing conflict when I would find it. We had 6 incidents when I found small amounts in her possession, the last time being 3 weeks before she ran away. She was grounded each time. After the last argument with her boyfriend the day before she ran away, that ended with her throwing the phone against the wall and he squealing his truck tires as he sped away. I grounded her from him because I was not aware he had such a bad temper. Alissa did not display any drug dependencies with me except the occasional marijuana usage, which occurred over a 4-year period. Alissa was trying to run away this same time last year when I convinced her to stay with her 2 brothers for about 3 to 4 weeks. She returned home under objection to the same rules I've used through 4 older children. We had added conflict due to her deceased mother's sister's attempts to use Arizona's Child Protection Agency to steal our girls in 1993 and 1994, even though her mother made it very clear to them she wanted our children to remain with me. You have to wonder, why was the aunt estranged? And why would the aunt go through the trouble of trying to file something with CPS if she didn't have a valid concern? And also, if you remember, it was previously said that the brothers were worried that one brother offered Alissa and Sarah a place to stay because he was worried about Michael raising them. So you have all these people worried, and Michael's the only one saying there are all these problems. It just doesn't fit. People have said she's free-spirited, a little wild at times, but it's not like she was getting arrested every weekend or anything like that. The false accusations against me were cleared by CPS, but left behind a scar and idea in my children that if I didn't give in to certain demands against my rules and some laws, that they could use the threat of CPS against me to get what they wanted. Such an incident occurred last year, whereupon I called CPS to report the same because I grew tired of trying to raise my children under this threat. No investigation resulted. Alissa has been running away from confusing situations and any time she thought she was in trouble since I first adopted her at 2 years of age. Her favorite phrase was, "You're being mean to me," which later turned into "you're abusing me," which was often misinterpreted many times by those who didn't know Alissa. I've always tried to avoid any form of physical discipline with any of my children, stopping my wife when we first got married. When we got married, she had 2 kids. I had 3 kids. I adopted her 2, and we had 1 between us. She died in 1993. The last day I saw Alissa on May 17th, 2001 was the last day of school with only 2 classes. She had one final and errands to run as an teacher's aide. I became concerned over the fight she had with her boyfriend the day before, knowing she had used this class before to visit her boyfriend, who she had been told not to see for at least 1 week due to his display of anger at Alissa for not letting him come inside our house when I was not home. I found out later she used this time to visit with him upon his request, again, violating my orders. I took Alissa out of school early to discuss the summer rules or visiting her Aunt Lynette in California, the marijuana, and attempted to diffuse our adversarial portion of our relationship, including my concerns about the temper and demands her boyfriend was putting on her. We got lunch and returned home. We agreed it had been a difficult and tedious school year with me having to tutor her every night. We agreed we needed time away from each other, but were arguing over her going to her aunt's in California, mostly due to a difference of opinion about the usage of marijuana. I conceded to let her go if she would discuss her plans to break up with her boyfriend before she left, and promised to refuse any marijuana she was offered. This turned into another argument over my trying to control everything in her life and everyone trying to tell her what to think and do, including her boyfriend, John Lackman. She also told me she was tired of her job at Jack in the Box and was worried about all the changes about to occur with certain people leaving. Now, the audio cuts out for a solid 2 minutes. They do not put this letter on the screen. It comes back in after she's disappeared. He said the days were a blur with not knowing where she was and the feeling of rejection, which is interesting. It's not a feeling of rejection. It's why would you feel rejected? Like maybe failure as a parent, but rejection and everything being my fault. When the phone call came in, that was Thursday, May 24th. He said he had been out all night looking for Alissa and returned home at 4 or 5 a.m. He heard the phone ring and he answered it. Now, remember when earlier I told you to remember his son saying that all he heard was static and that was it? Michael says in this letter, I heard someone return my hello, but due to my bad hearing and loud traffic noise, I repeated my hello, which was returned with a loud hello that sounded like Alissa's voice. I became excited, asking if this was Alissa while she was angry, telling me she left because of my stupid rules. Her life sucked, something about her job and John, then a pause with that sounded like F off and her hanging up. I immediately got in my car to look for her. By the time I returned and realized I should have dialed star 69 to get the number, someone else had called. Isn't that convenient, y'all? All my attempts with Quest to get this number failed, with them demanding I serve a subpoena to get the number. I asked just for the area code and I was denied. Since then, I've contacted school counselors, her friends, and have left flyers with their photo on it at stores and local movie theaters. I left one phone message with a detective at the Phoenix Police Department, but was told he was on vacation. He also lists a bunch of other agencies that he had reached out to. He said he canvassed the neighborhood himself to see if anyone saw her. He said, my security camera film showed nothing of when Alissa left. I watched all 8 hours of it. She would have had to have left through her bedroom window or back gate. Sincerely, Michael Turney. So we're going to leave it there, guys. Next up, we're going to get to hear about the contract that he made Alissa sign, where he himself introduces the molestation allegations himself. And so that will be on the next episode. We're hopefully going to catch up before Monday. There was no court today on Friday. So maybe a couple of more episodes coming out this weekend on this. And if you have some free time over the weekend, do look up that podcast by Sarah Turney and go back and listen to this backstory. A lot of things are not coming in this trial that are very vital to understanding the dynamics of the real relationship between Michael and Alissa, because I feel like a lot of really important things are being left out. All right. Talk to you soon.